Hi folks, so in this video we're going to talk a little bit about Formative. Formative is another really great formative assessment tool that allows you to set up quizzes and assignments and be able to see what your students are doing really in real time as they're doing it. So as you can see from their kind of splash page before you sign in, this is how it'll look when you assign a formative. You can kind of watch students type, you can watch them draw, you can either create your own formatives or you can pull them from their library where there are already ones that are pre-made. You can transform PDFs or Google Docs or Word documents and make them interactive, make them digital. So it's a really great tool for those of you that may not be super comfortable with technology. This takes what you are already doing, paper and pencil, and allows you to apply some of that real-time feedback and start collecting some data a lot quicker and easier than doing paper and pencil. It shows you can act on live responses, so you can see how your students are doing, but then you can really kind of step in and give some feedback to students right away. And you can track student growth over time, so that's a great way to see how your students are growing over time, and that's super important. It integrates with everything Google, and there's some more stuff. So let's get into Formative right now. I'm going to log in. I'm going to sign in with my Google account. And once I'm signed in, you'll see kind of a dashboard of anything that's going on right now, which I have nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set up a new formative from scratch. I'm going to click the new formative button, and here it's going to give me an option to title this. So I'm going to call this peanut butter and jelly. I can do different things like change color. I can put an image there, and that little thing that's jumping at me is how I'm going to add different content. So if I click that plus sign, it'll give me the option to do a couple of things. Now, anything with a star is premium. You would have to pay for those features, but Formative by itself is super powerful without all of those premium features. So some content that you can do is you can embed stuff from different websites. There's some really cool tricks to that I'll cover in a different video. But you can put images, you can put blocks of text, you can do videos, you can set it up as a whiteboard, and this is just going to be the kind of the content stuff that you put in there. So here I'm going to put in a text block, and I'm going to type in some directions. All right, and now I'm going to start adding some questions. So here I can assign essay questions, multiple choice questions, multiple selection, short answer, show your work, which is really cool, and then true or false. The show your work is set up like, I'll just jump right into it. It's set up just like a whiteboard where you can type a question and have the students use either their mobile devices or their touchscreen Chromebooks to then draw and show their work. So I'm going to type a question here. The other thing that I really like about Formative is if you click the plus sign on the right hand side here, you can either add images as your questions, or you can add things for the math teachers out there in LaTeX. So that's going to look something like this. So you can really put together any equation that you want to assign. This one looks fine. And then you can also do things like edit the background and put in images, which means that I can do stuff like graph paper in the background instead of just plain paper. But here I'm going to leave this the way it is. Then you can assign a different number of points. So for this question I'm going to be generous. I want 5 points for this question because that's a super difficult one. I don't even know what I'm looking at. And when I'm ready to add another question, I can do that. So here I'm going to do some multiple choice questions. And now we'll stick to my original plan, which is peanut butter and jelly. So if I scroll all the way back up to the top, I can preview this so I can see kind of what it looks like from a student's perspective. So here it has a phone, this is a tablet like an iPad, and then this is what it would look like on a laptop device. So again, the show your work one, I can click on that, and this is what it'll look like. So students can actually just use their devices to write different colors, so they can highlight things. circle things. They can add their own text and erase shapes, things like that. So there's a lot that you can do with that. All right, and for your own grading purposes, you can change the assignment type to reflect more accurately what that assignment is. All right, and when you're done building your assignment, you can then go ahead and assign it to your students. So what's great about Formative, and I'll show you this in a second, is that you can link it to your Google Classes, so that you'll notice here the G means that it's linked up to one of my Google Classes. So when I go to assign something, I can simply select it, and I can decide whether or not to return the scores immediately, which I love. And if I want to give them the correct answers, I can do that as well. And then I can just choose to post it to Classroom, and when I'm ready, I click assign, and it'll walk me through that process. All right, so how did I get those classes in there? So right from the main screen, if you click on classes, it's real simple. You just click the button, import from Google Classroom. It'll have you sign in. And then once you do that, it's going to start importing your classes. Now, just a word of caution, depending on how large some of your classes are, this may take some time. So give it a little while to do it. Don't do it with your classes there. But once your classes are in there, the only thing you may have to do is from time to time, just double check to make sure that all of your students are there. And then you can re-import students if need be. And that way it syncs up your rosters right there. So if you're looking for kind of work over time, you can go into the tracker, and then you can specify kind of which students you pull up in this list here. So that way you can kind of see how they're doing over the last couple weeks or the last week or today. The tracker over a longer period of time is a premium option that you could get. You can also kind of filter down on the type of assessment. If you're just interested in the benchmarks or just the classwork, you can kind of just look at those as well. But then this gives you all of the information you need about your individual students. If you were looking at how each Formative or how each assessment is doing, you can switch over to the Formatives tab, and then you can just click on a specific assessment, and then you can take a look at the individual responses. So here I'll be able to see all of my students. I can click on a specific student and see question by question how she is doing. Not too good. And then I can also take a look at totals and see percentage-wise how each question performed, in addition to how each student performed as well. And if I have this up on my smartboard in the front of the room, what I might choose to do is hide the names, and that way I can kind of see how my class is doing without attaching a name to it. And finally, at the end, I can export my results. So you get a few free exports this month, so use them wisely. One final thing that I wanted to show you is when you create a formative, there's actually an option to enhance a PDF or a Google Doc. So you get a few of those a month, a few pages of those a month that they'll let you upload for free, and then it's a premium option. So you can upload a file directly through here or a copy from Drive. And when that happens, I'll show you what that looks like. So this is an example called Book of the Dead, and this I took from our StudySync program, and it was just a worksheet that was assigned in StudySync, and what I did was I added questions to it. So anywhere you see this little blue circle is correlated with a question. So here this first one is looking for a vocabulary word. So number 1 is a short answer question. I'm going to allow students to type the vocabulary word because I want to see how they do. And then these are the potential answers. So I put the actual answer, and then I put a couple different spelling differences. That way you can really figure out if it's what the student knows or if it's just a spelling mistake. So I didn't do the same for the rest because I wanted to check spelling. Same thing here with points. You can give different amounts of points. And like I said, this is probably one of the quickest ways to convert what you are doing in paper and pencil to something that's digital. That way that you can view the responses a little bit quicker, and then you can look at kind of question by question how students are doing. If there are any questions that they're really struggling with, that'll show up here, up at the top here. And again, finally, a reminder that there is a library of already kind of pre-made tests. So you can kind of go in and look at different subject areas, look at grades, whatever you have to figure out. I'm going to go and look for a math high school level and see what kind of assessments are in there. All right, and this one, based upon the kind of description here, looks like it comes from Pearson's Common Core Edition, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry courses. So some of the information in here, you'll see kind of almost a whole chapter, it looks like. It's 31 pages of that textbook, which is awesome. And then they have a video here embedded as well. They've got a diagram that students are going to use to solve some of these questions. This one's looking kind of interesting. There's a screencast here. Yeah, so just a pretty good example of how you can embed some other multimedia items into a formative assessment, which I actually really like. All right, so again, this was Formative. If you have any questions, if you want to kind of take a look at this deeper, definitely feel free to reach out, and I hope you have a great day.